Hello, this is the Bible in fewer words. We are Carol and Steve Wells. This is episode 18, Genesis chapter 35 through 37. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Carol.
We are starting with chapter 35. God said to Jacob, "Go to Bethel and make an altar to the God who appeared to you when you were fleeing from Esau." That's kind of a complicated sentence.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because God is talking to Jacob, but he's referring to himself as the God who appeared to you when you were fleeing from Esau. So I guess he's reminding Jacob about the last time that they met, or at least one of the last times that they met, when he was leaving with his family from Laban, and Esau was in the vicinity, and they ended up meeting. And I think the night before, he had a wrestling match with God. Remember?
Okay.
And so I think that's what he's talking about here.
So God doesn't just say, "Hey, go make an altar to me."
No. He says, I'm going to make an altar to the God. It's essentially the God who wrestled with you a while back.
Okay.
And he won.
Yes, Jacob won.
Right. So that was a few episodes ago. It's been a while.
All right. I think I'm set. I'm
Okay.
straight now. So Jacob said to his household, "Put away all your strange gods, clean up and change your clothes. We're going to Bethel to build an altar to God." So that's a weird way of saying it, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's the way the Bible puts it. You know, they had gods. Remember how Laban, they had kind of stolen Laban's gods?
Oh, yes.
And Laban didn't get them back because Rachel was sitting on a box while she was menstruating. So
Yes, she was.
So he couldn't get them back. So maybe those are the gods he's talking about here. Get rid of them because we're going to go see God.
And we're going to build an altar to this God.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want you to be...
and wash up and change your clothes and all that.
Okay. So everyone gave Jacob all their strange gods and earrings. God hid them under a tree, an oak tree, near Shechem.
I think Jacob hid him under the tree.
Oh, so you're right. Jacob hid the strange gods and earrings under an oak tree near Shechem.
And Shechem is the town, I think, where we just had the episode about Shechem and Dinah.
Oh.
So it's both the name of a town and it's the name of a person.
Okay. And that very sad love story.
Yeah, Shechem, is no longer around.
As they traveled towards Bethel, the terror of God was on the surrounding cities. So no one bothered them as they passed by. Okay, I don't really get what that means. What's that?
Well, I guess that people knew about the reputation of God, that God was fierce and he was the God of Jacob. And so let them pass. Don't mess with them because, well, remember what happened in Shechem?
Yes.
Yeah, so behave yourselves. And so everybody did.
Okay, so they're able to travel freely.
Mm-hmm.
God appeared to Jacob again and blessed him, saying, "Your name is Jacob, but it won't be Jacob anymore. Israel will be your name from now on." Well, wait a minute. Didn't this already happen?
Yeah, it did. Back when at the wrestling match
Oh.
between God and Jacob, because Jacob beat God in the wrestling match,
Yes.
or the man, or whether it was God or a man, it wasn't too clear.
Or an angel.
But they said that you wrestled with God and won.
Uh-huh.
And after that, God changed his name to Jacob.
To Israel.
To Israel. Changed Israel's name and changed Jacob's name to Israel.
That's
right.
confusing when people get their names changed. It's confusing for us too.
That's right. So God already had renamed Jacob Israel a few chapters ago, but he's doing it again here.
Okay. "I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation, a company of nations, and kings will come out of your loins." So we're talking again about a lot of seed.
A lot of seed, and he's telling Jacob, who is pretty much done with his being fruitful and multiplying. He's already had 12 sons now. 11 sons and one daughter.
Yes. This is verse 12. "The land that I gave Abraham and Isaac, I'll give to you and your seed." We kind of already knew that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, verse 16. As they journeyed from Bethel, Rachel entered hard labor.
Oh, wait a second. She's having a baby on the road.
Yeah, she is.
So I guess he's not quite done having his seed.
That's right. He's going to have, well, I guess not. We'll see what happens here.
Okay.
The midwife said to her, "Don't be afraid. You will have a son." As she died, Rachel named her son Benjamin.
Okay, wait a second. The midwife's saying, "Hey, don't be afraid. Everything's going to be all right. You're going to have a son."
A son, yeah.
And then in the next verse, she dies.
The very next verse, she dies. She dies and names her son. Actually, she named her son Benoni, according to the actual text.
Yes.
And then Jacob changed it to Benjamin.
So much for respecting her deathbed wishes. So Benoni, I kind of like that name.
Yeah. Anyway, Jacob set a pillar on Rachel's grave, and it's still there today.
Today, we should go visit that. All right, so verse 22. Jacob's oldest son, Reuben, had sex with his father's concubine, Bilhah, and Jacob heard about it.
Bilhah.
Yes?
If you remember back in the great baby making contest episode,
Yes.
she was the slave girl of Rachel.
Okay, I do remember that from my little family tree that I made of Jacob's wide
And Reuben
family.
was the oldest boy. He's the oldest son.
But he's not Rachel's son, he's Leah's son.
He's Leah's son, but he's the oldest son. He's the oldest son of Jacob.
Yes.
And he had sex with his father's concubine. And Jacob heard about it.
I expect he wasn't too happy about that.
Yeah, but it doesn't say. It just says that he heard about it.
Okay, so that's this whole verse is just
That's it. Yeah.
Jacob's oldest son had sex with his father's concubine, Bilhah.
Yep.
All right. Isaac gave up the ghost at the age of 180.
Yeah, and that's the way the King James phrased it, so I kept it that way. You know, giving up the ghost is kind of a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually never knew where that came from.
But it's really interesting that he dies at 180 because remember when he was tricked out of the blessing that he was supposed to give to Esau, gave to Jacob instead? He was 100 years old at the time. And he was supposed to be dying. He was going to go get me some venison because I'm going to die here and I want to bless you. But he lived for another 80 years before he died.
Yeah, he was a young guy at 100.
He was, yeah.
Yeah. So he died at 180 and he was buried by his sons Esau and Jacob. You know, that sounds familiar. Like, didn't Abraham, was he buried by his sons Isaac and Ishmael?
Yeah, it's just like that.
All right.
And the next chapter is 36. And I completely left it out because it is just a bunch of begats, more or less, another genealogy. Except for one thing, it does say that Esau, it says Esau is Edom. This is verses 8 and 9. He is the father of the Edomites. And I'm including that because the Edomites are a hated group that the Israelites are going to be fighting later on. So I thought it was interesting that Esau is their father. They descended from Esau, and God hated Esau, remember?
Yes.
And so he probably hates the Edomites too.
Okay, so there are a lot of hated groups from what I recall.
Yeah, the Canaanites.
The Canaanites.
Because they're descendants of Canaan.
The Moabites.
Moabites, because they're the descendants of Lot and his daughters.
Okay. And now the Edomites. All kinds of ites.
Yeah, right. Anybody that isn't an Israelite is pretty much bad. Okay, chapter 37, verse 3. Jacob loved Joseph more than all his other children, and he made him a multicolored coat. So the other kids in the family hated Joseph.
Joseph had a dream and told it to his brothers, saying, "We were binding sheaves in the field, and my sheaf stood up, and your sheaves bowed down to worship me." And Joseph's brothers responded, "So you're going to reign over us?" And they hated him even more for it.
Joseph had another dream, and he told it to his brothers, saying, "I had another dream where the sun, moon, and 11 stars worshiped me." Joseph also told it to his father, Jacob, who said, "Am I, your mother, and your brothers supposed to worship you?"
Okay, so this Joseph guy seems a little
Self-absorbed.
Self-absorbed,
Yeah,
yes.
right.
So he was the favorite.
He's
Maybe
the
they
favorite.
shouldn't have told him that when he was a kid.
He's the favorite. He's having these dreams that are saying that you're going to all be serving me. Even like the sun, the moon, and 11 stars. Well, the sun is going to be Jacob. The moon is, I suppose, going to be Rachel.
Who's dead now.
His mom, who's dead now. And the 11 stars are his brothers, I guess.
Even including the new little baby Benjamin or Benoni.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Jacob's kind of saying, wait a minute,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be worshiping you, buddy.
Right, but in the next verse, Joseph's brothers envied him, but Jacob thought it might come true.
The dream might come true.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I guess we'll see. So the coat, that's the famous coat that Jacob made for Joseph.
Uh-huh.
And he probably just wears it around all over the place.
Yeah, he probably does.
One day, Joseph's brothers went to Shechem to feed the flocks. And Jacob told Joseph, go see what his brothers were doing. And when Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they conspired to kill him, saying to one another, let's kill Joseph and throw his body in a pit. We'll say he was eaten by an evil beast, and then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. Man, they're kind of an evil crowd there.
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Reuben had another idea. He said, let's not kill him. Let's just throw him in a pit. So they stripped Joseph of his fancy coat and threw him into a pit. This is verse 25 through 28. Later, some Midianites, or Ishmaelites, or both, passed by. They sold Joseph to them for 20 pieces of silver, and then brought Joseph to Egypt. This is kind of getting to be a complicated story.
Yeah.
So they're throwing him in a pit, and then they're still kind of hanging around, and all of a sudden,
Yeah, and it's all of
these other people show up.
Right, they sit down to have lunch, I think, right?
Okay.
And then while they're doing that, some Midianites come by, or some Ishmaelites. Actually, in the Bible, there's two groups that come by, and it seems like they sell them to one, and then some other people come by and they sell them to the other. And it's Ishmaelites and Midianites, and we don't really know who ended up with him.
Uh-huh.
I think it was the Ishmaelites, but they bought him for 20 pieces of silver. So they got him out of the pit, and they gave him to the guys, to the Midianites. Oh yeah, and they brought him to Egypt. Yeah, the Midianites. Mm-hmm.
Brought him to Egypt. Okay, so now we're going to find out what the brothers did.
Yeah, the brothers killed a goat, put some blood on Joseph's multicolored coat, brought the coat to their father and said to him, look what we found. We don't know if it's Joseph's coat.
Yeah, they do.
Jacob recognized the coat and said, it's my son's coat. An evil beast ate him. There's no doubt that Joseph was torn into pieces. And Jacob tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his loins. And the Midianites sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of the Pharaoh. And that's the end of chapter 37.
Okay. Well, that's not very much brotherly love going on there.
No, it's a troubled family.
It is a troubled family. And Jacob, when he hears about it, what's this about tearing his clothes?
Well, it happens a lot in the Bible. They rent their clothes is the way that the King James Version puts it. And there's probably 50 times that it happens in the Bible, maybe more.
So they're so upset, they tear their clothes off.
They tear their clothes up, yeah. And sometimes they put sackcloth on their loins.
All right. Well, do we have any parting words to say about this?
Not really. We'll hear a lot more about Joseph in the rest of the book of Genesis.
Okay, so this is not the end of Joseph.
It certainly isn't, no.
All right. Great. Thanks for staying with us, folks, and we'll see you next time.